Hello everyone, welcome to this YouTube channel MathSense. Today we are going to start the second part of lecture 1 in Operation Research. So in this lecture we are going to discuss some historical standpoint in the history of OR. Actually, no science has ever been born on a specific day. Operation Research is no exception. Its roots are as old as science and society. Here we are discussing some specific points in history. So, OR is a relatively new discipline, whereas 70 years ago it would have been possible to study mathematics, physics, or engineering. For example, at university, it would not have been possible to study operation research. Indeed, the term OR didn't exist then. It was really only in the late 1930s that operational research began in a systematic fashion, and it started in the UK. As such, it would be interesting to give a short history of OR. So, in 1936, early in 1936, the British Air Ministry established Bawdsey Research Station on the east coast near Felixstowe, Suffolk, as the center where all pre-war radar experiments for both the Air Force and the Army would be carried out. Experimental radar equipment was brought up to a high state of reliability, and ranges of over 100 miles on aircraft were obtained. It was also in 1936 that Royal Air Force, which is actually known as RAF, Fighter Command, charged specifically with the air defense of Britain, was first created. It lacked, however, any effective fighter aircraft. No Hurricanes or Spitfires had come into service, and no radar data was yet fed into its very elementary warning and control system. It had become clear that radar would create a whole new series of problems in fighter direction and control. So, in late 1936, some experiments started at Biggin Hill in Kent into the effective use of such data. This early work, attempting to integrate radar data with ground based observer data for fighter interception, was the start of OR. So, before that, it is not the thing that OR is not before this time. OR was there, but that operation research word is not there. So, in during this war, that particular term OR is defined, or particular name is defined. That's why sometimes OR is known as war baby also, because in the history there are so many events occurred in the World War time period. So now, in 1937, the first of three major pre-war air defense exercises was carried out in the summer of 1937. The experimental radar station at Bawdsey Research Center was brought into operation, and the information derived from it was fed into the General Air Defense Warning and Control System. From the early warning point of view, this exercise was encouraging, but the tracking information obtained from radar after filtering and transmission through the control and display network was not very satisfactory. In 1938, in July 1938, a second major air defense exercise was carried out. Four additional radar stations had been installed along the coast, and it was hoped that Britain now had an aircraft location and control system greatly improved both in coverage and effectiveness. Not so. The exercise revealed rather that a new and serious problem had arisen. This was the need to coordinate and correlate the additional and often conflicting information received from the additional radar station. With the outbreak of war apparently imminent, it was obvious that something new, drastic, if necessary, had to be attempted. some new approach was needed. So during all this period, the need of operation research appears. Accordingly, on the termination of the exercise, the superintendent of Borsay Research Station, A.P. Rao, announced that although the exercise had again demonstrated the technical feasibility of the radar system for detecting aircraft, its operational achievements still fell far short of requirements. The, he therefore proposed that a crash program of research into the operational as opposed to the technical aspect of the system should begin immediately. The term operational research, which means actually research into military operations here, was coined as a suitable description of this new branch of applied science. The first team was selected from amongst the scientists of the radar research group the same day. In 1939, in the summer of 1939, Britain held what was to be its last pre war air defense exercise. It involved some 33,000 men, 1,300 aircraft, 110 anti aircraft guns, 700 searchlights, and 100 barrack balloons. This exercise showed a great improvement in the operation of the air defense warning and control system. The contribution made by the OR team was so apparent that the Air Officer Commander in Chief, RAF Fighter Command, Air Chief Marshal Sir Hugh Dowling, requested that on the outbreak of war they should be attached to his headquarters at Stanmore in North London. Initially, they were designated the Stanmore Research Section. In 1941, they were redesigned the Operational Research Section when the term was formalized and officially accepted, and similar sections set up at other RAF commands. Now, in 1940, on May 15, 1940, with German forces advancing rapidly in France, Stanmore Research Section was asked to analyze a French request for 10 additional fighter squadrons. Squadron means actually 12 aircraft is known as squadron. So 10 additional fighter squadron means 120 aircrafts in all. When losses were running at some 3 squadron every 2 days, that means 36 aircraft every 2 days. They prepared graphs for Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill is the British Prime Minister of that time. Based upon a study of current daily losses and replacement rates, indicating how rapidly such a move would deplete fighter strength, no aircraft was sent, and most of those currently in France were recalled. So they took this big decision on the basis of some strong calculations. This is held by some to be the most strategic contribution to the course of the war made by OR, as the aircraft and pilots saved were consequently available for the successful air defense of Britain, in the Battle of Britain. So this is the major history in the field of operation research. Now in 1941 onwards, in 1941, an operational research section, which is actually known as ORS, was established in Coastal Command, which was to carry out some of the most well-known OR work in World War II. The responsibility of Coastal Command was to a large extent the flying of long-range stories by single aircraft with the object of sighting and attacking surfaced U-boats, which is actually a German submarines. The technology of the time meant that, unlike modern day submarines, surfacing was necessary to recharge batteries. So at that time, technology was so much advanced. So in submarine, the surfacing was necessary to recharge batteries. vent the boat of fumes, and recharge air tanks. Moreover, U boats were much faster on the surface than underwater, as well as being less easily detected by sonar. Thus, the Operation Research started just before World War II in Britain with the establishment of teams of scientists to study the strategic and technical problems involved in military operations. The objective was the, to find the most effective utilization of limited military resources by the use of quantitative techniques. Following the end of the war, OR spread, although it spread in different way in the UK and USA. So they observe importance of OR during the war. So after that, obviously OR spread. In 1951, a committee on operation research formed by the National Research Council of USA and the first book on method of operation research by Morse and Kimball was published. So that first book on this particular subject is written by Morse and Kimball. In 1952, the Operation Research Society of America come into being. The whole society for operation research. Success of Operation Research in the Army attracted the attention of the industrial managers who were seeking solution to their complex business problems. Nowadays, almost every organization in all countries has staff applying Operation Research, and the use of Operation Research in government has spread from the military to a wide variety of departments at all levels. The growth of Operation Research has not been limited to the USA and UK. It has reached many countries of the world. Now, history of OR in India. So, India was one of the few countries who started using Operation Research. In India, Regional Research Laboratory located at Hyderabad was the first Operation Research Unit established during 1949. At the same time, another unit was set up in the Defense Science Laboratory to solve the stores, purchase, and planning problems. In 1953, Operation Research Unit was established in Indian Statistical Institute, Calcutta, with the objective of using Operation Research method in national planning and survey. In 1955, Operation Research Society of India was formed, which is one of the first members of International Federation of Operation Research Society. Today, Operation Research is a popular subject in Management Institute and School of Mathematics. So, this is a brief history of Operation Research. In this part, we describe the history after World War because the term is defined in the duration of World War. Now, the next topic is now we are going to discuss methodology and different phases. So here we have some important phases in the process of operation research. So the first phase is observe the problem environment. So first we need to observe the environment where the problem occurs. So we get a clear cut idea about problem. So after that, so because of this observation, we can analyze the whole situation and we can define the problem very well. So the second stage is actually analyze and define the problem. So after defining it, we need to convert that into a model. So this is actually a mathematical model. So and after that, we need to put appropriate data, or we need to select appropriate data regarding that particular model. So this is the next stage, select appropriate data and put. So after selecting appropriate data input, we can find solution by using different methods and check whether that solution is reasonable or not. So provide a solution and test its reasonableness. So when we find a perfect solution for the particular model, then implement the solution. This is the last stage of the process. So these are different phases of operation research. So here now we are going to discuss all the stages in detail. So the stages of development of OR are also known as phases or processes of OR, which has 6 important steps. The 6 important steps are arranged in the following orders. So first one is observe the problem environment. Second one is analyze and define the problem. Third one is develop model. Next one is select appropriate data input. Fifth one is provide a solution and test its reasonableness. And last one is implement the solution. So first one, observe the problem environment. The first step in the process of OR development is the problem environment observation. This step includes different activities. They are conferences, site visit, research, observation, etc. These activities provide sufficient information to the OR specialist for formulate the problem. Now we reach to the second step, and that is analyze and define the problem. This step is analyzing and defining the problem. In this step, in addition to the problem definition, the objectives, uses, and limitations of OR study of the problem also defined. So we are not only defining the problem, but the objectives, why we solve this, the uses of the solution, limitation of the OR study, all these things are defined. The output of this step are a clear grasp of the need for a solution and its natural understanding. Now the third is important one, because we are converting real world problem into a mathematical model. So third step is develop a model. This step develops a model. A model is a presentation of some abstract or real situation. The models are basically mathematical models which describe systems process in the form of equations. Formulate relationship. The different activities in this step are variable definitions, formulating equation, etc. This model is tested in the field under different environmental constraints and modified in order to work. Sometimes the model is modified to satisfy the management with the result. So actually, we can successfully develop a model if the problem is well defined. So this step number 3 is completely depend on the step number 2. Here actually each and every stages are dependent on each other. So after defining a particular model, the next step is select appropriate data input. A model works appropriately when there is appropriate data input. Hence, selecting appropriate input data is an important step in the OR development stage or process. The activities in this step includes internal or external data analysis, fact analysis, and collection of opinions and use of computer data banks. So here we can use IT section also. The objective of this step is to provide sufficient data input to operate and test the model developed in step number 3. Now next step is, fifth step is provide a solution and test its reasonableness. This step is to get a solution when the help of model and input data. With the help of model and input data, this solution is not implemented immediately. Instead, the solution is used to test the model and to find there are any limitation. Suppose if the solution is not reasonable or the behavior of the model is not proper, the model is updated and modified at this stage. The output of this stage is the solution that supports the current organizational objectives. So in this stage, if the model is not proper, solution is not reasonable, that means model is not proper. So we need to correct that model first, and after that we need to find another solution, and again we need to check whether that solution is reasonable or not. And the last step is implement the solution. At this stage, the solution obtained from the previous step is implemented. The implementation of the solution involves many behavioral issues. Therefore, before implementation, the implementation authority has to resolve the issues. A properly implemented solution result is quality of work and gains the support from the management. Actually, after this stage, you can take the final decision regarding that particular problem. So, this is all about the process. Thank you for being here.